Hello, welcome to the video lecture on formatted input-output statements. In the present lecture, we learn the following concepts. What are input-output? Format specifications in input-output and a few input-output functions like printf and scanf. Now, here we are seeing a diagram how the input and output operations are performed in a computer. For understanding purpose, if you look into this diagram, we are seeing the components like monitor, which is also known as output. Second one is primary memory. Third one is console or input. And also on the left hand side vertically there is another box known as secondary memory. Now the arrows show how the data flows from one place to another place, or how the input and output takes place. In general, in our computer, the keyboard is said to be standard input device and also known as console. And it is used to input the data to the computer. Similarly, the monitor or screen that we have acts as an output, and there are some auxiliary outputs like printer, etc. Now, in the CPU, we have a primary memory, and also to store the bulk storage, we have the secondary memory. Now, what happens through input, that is through keyboard, we give the data goes to primary memory, and once the primary memory is full, it goes to the secondary memory. That means this is all input part. Now, once the calculations or computations are over, if we want to see the results may be displayed on the monitor or output, that is standard output device. For that, the output data flows from primary to monitor and also from the secondary to monitor, but via primary memory. So thus, this is the diagram how data flows. With the help of this diagram, we can understand the concept of input-output operations. So from here, we can input the data either into primary memory or into the secondary memory. Similarly, from the primary memory, we can output the data onto the monitor, or from the secondary memory via primary memory, we can output the data. So whatever the functions we use to input the data from the input device to the either primary memory or secondary memory, they are called input operations. Similarly, if we want to display the data from secondary or primary memory to the monitor, is said to be the output operations. Now in C program or in C language, for these input output operations, some specific function library functions are available. With those functions, we can perform this input output operations that we are going to learn in the coming slides. C language provides us console input output functions. Read the input from the keyboard by the user accessing the console. Display the output to the user at the monitor. These input and output values could be of any primitive data type. There are two kinds of input-output functions. One is known as formatted input-output function. Second is known as unformatted input-output function. Now, in this video, we are concentrating only on formatted input-output functions. Now, what do you mean by formatted input-output functions? While calling any of the formatted console input-output functions, we must use a specific format specifiers in them which allow us to read or display any value of the specific primitive data type. So that means in the functions that we are using, we specify some specification and according to the specification either data is inputted or data is outputted. So we are mentioning a particular format, so that is why these functions are said to be formatted input output statements. Now how this format is specified, that will be explained by the next slide. Now if you look into the table, we have data type and format specifier. As we know that as we are inputting or outputting data, the data may exist any one of these data types, starting from int, char, float, double, short int, unsigned int, long int, unsigned long int, like that up to long double. There are many data types. And when we are mentioning these data types in the input output functions, we require a control string or called a format specifier, and the corresponding format specifiers are mentioned for each data type. So in the input output functions, we use these format specifications to input the data of these data types. Now there are 4 formatted input output functions. One is scanf, second is printf, another one is fscanf, another one is fprintf. The first set, scanf and printf, are used for input output operations from the standard input output devices and the memory. But if you want to do the same operations from files, we require the second set of functions, that is fscanf and fprintf. The scope of the present video is only for scanf and printf functions. Scanf. The scanf function allows us to read one or multiple values entered by the user through the keyboard at the console. Printf. The printf function is used to print or display one or multiple values in the output to the user at the console. Now whatever the format specifiers we have shown in the previous table, those are used in the formatted input output statements. Now we explain these concepts with some simple examples. In C program, first we start with the printf statement, which is easy to understand. So in C programming, printf is one of the main output function. The function format output to the screen. Now here look into it. This is a simple C program where we are using the printf statement. Printf, we have a parenthesis. This parenthesis region is called format specification field. In the format specification field, simply within the double quotes, we are writing a string C program. Now when this printf statement is executed, exactly the C programming, whatever in the double quotes, will be displayed on the screen. So thus printf is an output function which printing the string as it is, which is in the double quotes, onto the display unit. This is a simple printf statement, and here we are printing only one string. Now let us look into another example. In this example, again we are using a printf statement, but what we are doing is that here there are 2 fields. One is in the green color and second is the black color. In the green color, we are putting a double quotes and we are writing a string number equal to, and this is the format specification %d for an integer value, because we are going to print an integer value. Integer value specification is %d, so that is why we have used it. So this is the format specifier, comma, test integer is the actual variable, integer variable, and its value is equal to 5. So naturally, if printf statements prints the test integer, its value 5 should be printed. But however, in the format specification, we give a format that first we have to write a string number equal to symbol, and wherever the control string is mentioned, there the value is printed. So now you see in the output, number equal to symbol and the value is printed. So thus in that way, this is another type of printf statement that we can use. Next one is that in C programming, scanf is one of the commonly used function to take up the input from the user. The scanf function reads formatted input from the standard inputs such as keyboards. Now we see an example and we explain how the scanf function works. But you observe, we use a printf statement for convenience sake, which is not compulsory, but scanf statement is written here for understanding how this scanf function works. Here scanf is an input function. Now here the syntax is scanf, within the double quotes format string, then address operator, and test integer is the variable. Now what is happening? By reading the statement and executing it, the variable integer type test integer, which is stored in the particular address, the value is given at the keyboard, and the value will be taken from the keyboard and stored at the address of the test integer. For example, if test integer value is equal to 5, that 5 is stored at the particular address of the test integer. Now we are writing a printf statement here to check with the whether the scanf statement has properly inputted the value into the memory. So by writing printf number percentile the test integer, it is writing like this. First printf statement is only to purely print the string. So as it is printing enter an integer. Then we are writing scanf this one. This is the input that we have given 4. Then the printf statement is printing number 4. So in this way, in this program, we have implemented both input and output functions. The main thing is scanf function, which is an input function which has a format specification field and a variable. Now let us see another example. Int a float b, printf enter the integer and then a float, scanf percentile d percentile f ampersand a ampersand b, printf you entered percentile d and percentile a comma b, return 0. In this small program, what we can understand is that a is a integer variable, b is a float variable, and this printf statement print as it is, enter the integer and then float, so it will be printed as it is. But now you are entering the value a as -3 and b as 3.4 that you have entered, that and that value will be taken by the scanf statement. How the scanf statement takes the value? You are giving percentile d one control string and percentile f another control string. Percentile d is for integer and that is for a variable, and percentile f is a float value, float variable b. So for percentile d, percentile f, those two are the format specifiers for a and b respectively. Now after executing the program, you obtain the result and you entered -3 and 3.400. Thus in the present video we learned the following. What are IO, format specifications, printf, scanf. Thank you all, and thanks to programming.com, studytonight.com, input output function php.com, and scanf and printf function htm of decode java. Thank you all. Thank you.